Hello and welcome to another episode of Sushi and the Swordfish. You're here with Sushi again, and we're looking at my July 2021 list of films and throwing them into our tier list. As you can see, another little adjustment to our color scheme for our tiers. Looks kind of like our OKS and Stink are a little bit similar, but we're going to roll with it. Actually, why don't we make a quick adjustment? Let's go with that one. And then we'll change this one. There we go, that looks a little clearer now. Perfect. All right, let's move into it. So we've got a nice mix of films here again, and we're gonna kick it off with Black Dynamite. I really enjoyed this movie. It's a completely over-the-top, ridiculous movie. Michael Jai White is really good in the movie as the title character, and there's some really great scenes, some really funny gags, and just it's so over the top. And some of the stuff that happens is totally making fun of itself the whole way through. It's meant to be making fun of itself. It's really fun to watch, and it's just crazy. The trailer does a lot of justice to the film, and it is a film you might want to watch more than once, maybe not in consecutive sittings, to maybe appreciate it in a different way. But I would recommend this one for sure. Big money, big prizes, I love it category. We're going to follow that up with Escape Plan. The first time that Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger are in a full film together. They were in the first Expendables, was their first time sharing the screen in a film. However, this is the first movie where they're both kind of co-headlining. It's not bad. It's got some interesting elements to it. I don't know if it was necessarily the best action vehicle to be putting these two 1980s to early 90s action stars in, but it could have been a lot worse, and it's certainly not a terrible watch. I would say, you know, if you have any interest in either of those actors, the acting isn't of super high quality or anything. Neither man is necessarily known for that. Maybe Stallone to some degree. He's in some good movies and has shown some really great range in his dramatic acting, more so than Arnold. It's serviceable. It's certainly worth a quick watch on a Sunday afternoon kind of thing. If it's on, you could just leave it on in the background and kind of poke your head and watch it as you're doing something else. Next we have Frozen 2. And I rather enjoyed Frozen 2 quite a bit. It's kind of goes a little bit darker than the first film. I'm not too sure if they're planning on putting together a third film. It kind of feels that's sort of in the cards, though particularly the way this movie ends. Not really on a cliffhanger, but there do feel like there's loose ends that could be tied up. And it almost goes in that sort of Empire Strikes Back, if you will, sort of feeling, in that things are a little bit darker in this movie. And it's just sort of things veer off from the sort of, I wouldn't say the first movie is like completely happy-go-lucky, but it's certainly a little bit lighter than this one. But I rather enjoyed it. I thought it was actually really good. Next we have a documentary, Hoop Dreams, and I can't remember how I stumbled across this movie. Again, probably on some sort of documentaries list or in a Rotten Tomatoes 2 a.m. fever search through the rabbit hole or whatever. Very interesting film, and it follows two young athletes who want to try to make it to the NBA. And it is quite an interesting ride, we shall say. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it, but ultimately the end result doesn't quite live up to perhaps what you might be expecting to happen. It is a very realistic look on how hard it is to become a successful athlete, especially when you have the cards kind of stacked against you right from the start. Really interesting movie. Quite long too, so you do need to have a lot of time to get through the whole film. I think it's over 2.5 hours if I remember. Must have been painstaking to get all of that footage and then to cut it and put it all together for the movie. All right, next we have In the Mood for Love. This is a Tony Leung and Maggie Cheung movie. I've I think I'm actually going to put this in the top dog category. This movie was one that I had heard about long ago. Again, kind of like Dreamgirls, had intentions of watching it at some point. I think at one really like fraction of a moment in time, I was about to watch it, or really close to getting a copy of it, and then just was like, maybe another time. I really enjoyed this movie. It's got some really, really heartfelt performances. It is shot beautifully. If you've been to any major cities in Asia, you'll kind of you might feel kind of right at home. Just the way it's shot and the tight spaces where these people are in, and the work-life balance, and it was just really, really well done. And I think the amount of expression, particularly between the two leads, and the chemistry is so strong between them, and they don't need much dialogue to carry forward what's going on in the plot and what's going on in their minds, and then there's so much anguish in this movie, though. That's the one thing, is that it is a very the end result may surprise you, I suppose. And it's just it is a very interesting pathway for these two characters, and as well as the other characters. I've really enjoyed this movie, and if you are more into, you know, an art house type film, you know, genre, this should be on your list. It's a very, very interesting movie. I really liked it. Next we have The Incredibles 2. I'm not going to go too much into this one. I'm just putting the OK USA. I found I enjoyed the first Incredibles movie more. Absolutely nothing wrong with this movie. It was fun to get back into the world of The Incredibles, and the character Jack has a lot more to do in this movie rather than just being on the sidelines, and he's probably my favorite character in here. I do like Frozone a lot as well. So it's cool to see sort of the evolution of the characters and them move into some more different aspects of their life, and kind of moving out of their former lives of being heroes, then kind of having to live underground, and now kind of going back into being heroes again. Next is Madagascar. Again, a movie I remember hearing a lot about. I think it was quite well loved at one point, but I think this franchise has run its course. I do not hear anything about this anymore. I'm debating. There's some decent jokes, but they're kind of dated, and some of the voice performances, and it's got a good voice cast, but I don't know. I think I enjoyed sequels more than this one. I'm throwing in the stink pile. I didn't really enjoy it a ton, and I think the follow-up movies felt a little bit more interesting than this one. Next we have Mickey's Christmas Carol. This is for a lot of people. This is a classic movie. I'm going to throw right up here in Big Money, Big Prizes. I love it. I like this a lot. I think a lot of kids have probably seen this at some point. Maybe now, with the way television has changed a lot, it's maybe not as easy to come by as it once was. But I think for years and years, this was on TV for a lot of kids, and it's very enjoyable. It does have some extra scenes as well, which is, sorry, not extra scenes, some extra bonus cartoons as well. I believe, if I recall, one is the Donald Duck playing ice hockey with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and that's a pretty good classic. And there's a Goofy skiing one, like how to ski. There was all of those how-to with Goofy, how to play baseball and so forth. And the skiing one it's a good one. It's a really solid one. A lot of good jokes in that for sure. So yeah, Big Money, Big Prize. I love it. After that, we have the Minion 9 mini movie collection, or something it's called. I can't remember exactly. I think it is the 9 mini movie collection. I'm throwing in the stink. They're okay. I don't have much to say here. I like the Minion characters. They're cute. They're really funny. They have some really great jokes. Out of all of these ones, I didn't really find them all that entertaining. The only one I thought that was decent was them chasing the banana around the factory. Otherwise, it's definitely a pass. And I believe most of these end up, if I recall as well, they're basically on all of the Despicable Me DVDs as well. It just happened to collect all of these 9 little ones into one. It's not worth tracking down. Actually, you know what? I think it can even go in the no category, and basically basing that on the fact that if you end up buying the Despicable Me movies, which are pretty solid, these all end up on those DVDs or Blu-rays or what have you. So I think it's definitely a pass. And it was, I didn't know what I thought. It was actually 9 new movies, and then when I had already seen that they were not, I was like, this is not worth the time. Next we have the Minions movie. It's an okay movie. Again, there's some really fun jokes. I'm debating moving it to the stink category. It starts off so well with showing them have to go through all these different villainous leaders, and then once the main plot starts rolling along, it's just there. There's nothing really great about it. The 3 main minions are quite cute and fun to follow. I think it's the events that are happening around them that are not quite as exciting. I'm going to put this one down in the stink pile. But I think it's Bob, Kevin, and Stuart. They have a lot of personality as characters. And again, they kick off the movie so well, and it just it doesn't necessarily go downhill, but it's almost like a stock that starts rising really quick, and then it kind of flatlines, but starts tapering slowly and slowly and slowly. So yeah, I think it's not really one I would say you need to jump in and see. I think the Despicable Me movies do a little bit better job of keeping the minions at bay, so they're fun when they're on screen and it's not focused only on them. Next we have Monsters Inc. Again, a movie that I've seen a few different times, and I think I'm going to put this in the top dog category. I wanted to see this movie for a while. I didn't. This was actually my first viewing of it. This was my second viewing of it. I had just seen it the year before for the first time, and I wanted to revisit it for this list. And I really enjoyed this movie. I think the voice acting is great. The animation still looks really good, particularly on Sully. Billy Crystal as Mike is great. Like he's always singing some ridiculous song, or that I can't remember the one where it says like, "Don't put that thing away. I don't want it," or whatever that weird song is when they are trying to hide the Boo character from all the other monsters. And it's just great. And even to this day, there's some funny lines in there just that he uses with Roz. I can't think of the one, but the one that comes to mind is, how are you? Something like, "How are you today, my oozing little blossom," or something. It's just a fun movie. Great ideas. The door to the children's bedrooms is just so clever, and the idea that these monsters need to scare children to power their world is just incredibly ingenious, and a great way for kids to see monsters and not be scared. All right, next we have Olaf's Frozen Adventure. It's fine. It's just okay USA. Not bad, not too poor. It does share a few, if I recall, a few of the cartoons between the Mickey and the Frozen Adventure. They both have the Goofy skiing, and they might both have the Donald playing ice hockey as well. So it's cool that it's actually not just Frozen. It does have a few extra cartoons on it. But the Frozen cartoon itself is fine. There's a couple of catchy tunes. They may not be as memorable as the ones from the first Frozen or Frozen 2, but it's decent. It's kind of a cool buffer between the two movies. And it's just totally lighthearted. Next we have Robin Hood, Disney's Robin Hood. I really like this movie. I don't think it does necessarily need to go in the top dog category, but I've always really loved this movie. It's one that I feel is in the Disney catalog, but it's kind of over time been kind of pushed down the list of loved Disney classics. But I love the characters. I love the voice acting. I like the romance with Robin and Marion is done pretty well. The friendship between Little John and Robin is great. Sir Hiss is a super underrated villain character. He's a really fun character. It's interesting to see, because this was all hand drawn. You can see several times throughout the movie just where the animation was not cleaned up, and so there's a lot of heavy lines or out of place lines from the art and so forth. It's really interesting to see just that this film is kind of in the middle of like an evolution of the art style from the previous Disney classics to this movie. You kind of see it with 101 Dalmatians as well, but you can see the animation was starting to move a lot quicker, and I don't know how the processes looked, but it does feel like this is kind of in a transition phase. But I love the colors of the movie. It doesn't really have a lot of catchy music for the most part, but really great characters. And of course, Prince John is a really good villain as well, always sucking his thumb and whining like a little baby. After that, we have Sideways. I'm not sure what the categories this is. It's sort of a comedy drama, I suppose. Basically, it's a film about these two characters, these two men that are kind of going for one last hurrah, particularly the Thomas Hayden Church character. He is supposed to be getting married, so both of them go into a wine country and are touring. And they both have very different thoughts on what wine is being used for, and this whole long weekend or whatever you want to call it. The Thomas Hayden Church character just wants to get crazy and meet other women before he goes off and gets married. And the Paul Giamatti character is far more interested in the wine aspect, and so their personalities clash a lot, and it just leads into all of these kind of just weird situations occurring and so forth. I guess it's week long. I think it's a week actually. And their relationships with the two female characters and what happens is interesting too. This got a lot of praise when it came out. I think it's 2004 or something it came out, and it's just a movie that's completely disappeared. I've never heard anybody talk about this movie since 2004. But it's decent. It's got some decent writing, and acting is pretty well done. So I think it goes in the OK USA pile. And finally, we have The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I can't remember the actual, I think it's like Napunom, Chonom, Napunom, Isangnom, something like that. I can't remember the exact Korean title. One of the first, I guess, bigger budget North American Western style Korean created movies. It's okay. It's got some really cool, flashy fights in it for sure, and it does try to kind of follow The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly to some degree. It sort of follows that plot. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie though. There's Chinese, I think they're called the Manchurians. I can't remember, but and then there's Japanese soldiers. So there's a lot of these just pieces that are happening and so much information. It starts off kind of slow and focused on that, but then it feels like the ideas get too big too fast, and then by the time you reach that climactic ending, you're just almost exhausted just because too much has happened. But there are some really fun action pieces for sure out in like a big desert flat and racing on a tiny motorcycle and stuff. It's got some really cool set pieces for sure. I think it's an OK USA. I'm not sure. It would be interesting to see if there's a Korean director in the future that can direct Korean actors in another Western style movie and there probably has been that I'm not familiar with. But I think this was one of the first major budgeted attempts at capturing that spirit with a kind of Korean motif with Korean actors in it. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for joining me for the month of July. I hope you enjoyed this look. I certainly have enjoyed going through all these movies and recalling just what they were like and just kind of getting my thoughts down in video form. So take care, and I'll see you down the road.